Hi, everybody. I'm Rocio, and I'm really happy to be here at ISEC with you from home. And today I wanted to share some thoughts from a review that I did with the co-authors whose names you can see in the slides. A review of our packages for movement. We reviewed 58 packages, and I think that the lessons from that can be extrapolated for the whole statistical ecology community. And I would love to know your thoughts about this. So first, some disclaimers. I am not a package developer. Um, I do participate in the development of a package right now, but I don't consider myself a package developer. So I am presenting this work from an ecological statistician perspective and an R user and a R teaching perspective. I also want to say that I know that in many cases, um, developing a package is voluntary work, that you are not paid for it, and that I like package developers, and that I am a very grateful user. So that being said, I think that it's important to show you these graphs. So these are results from two papers. Um, the first one is about it's a review of ecological articles and the percentage of them that have been citing our packages or using R through time. And the one at the right is a paper I have recently shared. It's an archive, and it's the same thing but for movement ecology, and instead of percentage of articles, it's proportion of articles. And what we can see in common is that both in ecology in general and in movement ecology in particular, R is becoming very important. And this is not, so these graphs are about our usage, usage. But there's also a lot more development of our packages through time. So this is a graph uh, from the review. The reviewed packages were packages created to process or analyze tracking data. And I am not going to talk about the packages that I reviewed, but feel free to ask questions about them in the comments on Slack, and I can answer them later. What I want to share now are some lessons that are related to package documentation, maintenance, contribution, data class coercion, and peer review. I'm going to start with documentation, which I think it's the most important. It's a very, very important feature for packages. Um, so documentation can be in the form of the standard mandatory documentation for packages, also vignettes, tutorials, articles, books. I personally find that vignettes are very useful. And I want to thank all developers that take a lot of time to prepare all of this documentation. Um, so documentation is important for package usability. So to make the package easy to use, to make their functions easy to use, and make it easy to navigate through the package. However, there's a trade-off, right? How easy is a package to use, and how easy is to screw things up, how easy it is to do things wrong without noticing. So that is something that I guess package developers want to take into account as well, um, especially in this community where there are a lot of statisticians and ecologists that love statistics and want to make sure that the methods are um, great and the people are using them correctly. And that leads to the importance of putting effort into explaining and communicating the methods behind the package. Now, maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, um, and I can cite some packages that I think and were rated with having great documentation, such as Move HMM or Momentum. And but during the review that I did, I found some packages that the developers were already encouraging their use, and some of them have had a few years already, and the methods were not published yet, were not um, written or at least shared publicly. And in a few cases, um, the packages were already being cited in some papers, even though the methods were not there. So it is important, and I would advise as a user that, and as a statistician, that please make sure that you're sharing your methods before encouraging people to use freely your package. And I think yesterday we had a great presentation from Casey Vicentin and his package steps. And he talked about one of the motivations for building his package was to make it not work as a black box. And I think that's important. And another thing I want to say about the methods is that please make sure that if you're citing a paper of yours, that it is not behind a paywall, or that at least you have some preprint or open access version available. And if you're developing a package that uses someone else's methods, please take some time and space to describe the methods in the vignettes or tutorial or whatever type of documentation you consider appropriate. And please throw some red flags, like things that you shouldn't do or things that that users have to take into account. And my example would be being sure that, for instance, for Move HMM, people are having data with regular time steps, because that's what the functions will assume. And sometimes you put red flags, but the users really are so excited about the package that they only see how am I able to run this? How can I use it? So put really big red flags if it's necessary. Make them colorblind friendly if you need to. Like, please make sure and put everything on your side to make sure that people are going to do things right with the tool that you're giving them and with the power that you're giving them. And that's on the side of the developers. Now, from the side of the users, I would say we would have to ask ourselves if I am understanding what the package is doing, or rather what I'm doing with the package, before I get some results, use them to publish in scientific articles, or use them to give conservation and management policies recommendations, or that someone will use them. And I would like to say that I think it's also important for people that are teaching R or are teaching statistics with R to encourage this kind of reflection in students, just to make sure. I mean, this could sound obvious, but maybe the obvious is not, it's not really. So that's about documentation. Then I will quickly run through the other parts. Maintenance. I don't know if this is always something, no, I'm pretty sure that it's not always the case that the people will consider maintenance in time. Who will maintain the package over time? What happens if the person who developed the package is a student, a postdoc, a technician, and they move on, they change jobs, they change path careers? Is the PI going to take the package? There's not right answer for this, right? But this is something I think should be discussed. Package contribution, and I bring this up because in the review I found packages that were really doing original work and some packages that were doing going to the similar goals, and in some cases doing exactly the same thing and not really connecting to each other, not using functions from another package that already did it. So it is great to share pieces of code, to share packages and help towards reproducibility and transparency. But it is also, I think it's also important to ask ourselves, Does my package fill a gap or a need? Does it perform a novel task? And can those functions be instead added to an existing package and work as a community, work with other people that have started some things, instead of just doing it by myself and competing with the other packages? Data class conversion. Does the package handle commonly used data classes? So we are in statistical ecology, and many of the things we do are about space or time. So is my package as a developer containing functions to work with spatial data classes like SF? I didn't find many packages that were working with SF. Or time classes, which time class and why? And other important classes depending on what we're doing. And in the case that I was reviewing, which was tracking packages, trajectory data classes. And we're actually, after the review, we realized that there was not a standard central class for trajectory data. So we're developing a package for that. And we would like to get your inputs so that it can actually be useful for people and not just another data class for trajectories. And the last thing is peer review. So I would really suggest to check, if you haven't yet, our OpenSci and its website. And in the website, our OpenSci describes their review as transparent, constructive, non-adversarial, and open peer review process. And only reading that makes me really happy, and I wish that scientific journals had this written on their websites. I think it's amazing. And the idea is to, they are also inclusive, and yeah, I would like to mention that because they have a community call involving multilingual communities. The idea is that they know that a lot of developers are not native English speakers, so they consider that in their reviews. And actually, some people from our OpenSci have told me that they are starting a project to review processes in Spanish, and they're probably going to start doing other languages as well. And just briefly to finish, the process consists in 2 reviewers that are going to help you check usability, quality, style, and documentation of the package. So I highly recommend peer review for packages, as well as what we do with scientific articles. And there are several journals that are associated with our OpenSci that can, if your package passes our OpenSci, then it's easier to publish your paper on the package in those journals. So these are my thoughts. I would like to know yours. Thank you for your attention.